The case for the use of animals in biomedical research is condemned on the grounds for wrongly violating the rights of animals and wrongly imposing on the sentient creatures much avoidable suffering. However, Carl Cohen considers both arguments easily dismissed and not sound. Holders of rights must have the capacity to comprehend self-restricting moral judgments to govern themselves. Animals cannot self-legislate and cannot be members of a truly moral community. Therefore, they cannot possibly possess rights.
I think, a major advantage to using animals in biomedical research is that you can design a compound. Let's say you're using a drug, and you want to use this for Alzheimer's disease, for example, the halting of Alzheimer's disease. Well, you can make the drug in the lab, and then you can test it in cellular assays and see that it's working and so forth. But the next is, how is this going to work in a living system? And the living system you would ultimately want to test this in would be a human being.
Human being,
yeah,
definitely.
So you don't want to go straight into trials with a human being because you honestly have no idea what's going to happen. Now there's experience you can build upon, saying, okay, usually compounds like this may raise blood pressure or so forth, or these are usually going to give you problems with kidney or liver metabolism. If you didn't want to put it into humans straight away, then what usually happens is you take an animal species that has a similar genetic makeup to a human, and it happens to be mice are good at that. Well, these mice are usually subjected to inhumane treatments, whether it be what they call intracranial injections.
Yeah, definitely.
So this is where you would take your drug and put it in through the skull of the mouse. Would you do that on human? Probably not.
Probably not, yeah.
Right. So what's that test for? Why would you ever want to put it through the brain? Well, there's things that keep certain compounds out of your brain, and for example, Alzheimer's is a CNS or central nervous system disease. You need to see how that drug is working in the brain. So that's when you go intracranially. How else are you going to find out? I would be all for using other systems to test that, but if you're trying to develop a drug to save human lives, unfortunately it's going to have problems at the R&D stage, and where do you find most of those problems is usually in animal models.
On the grounds of rights, we must know who holds the rights, against whom it is held, and what is a right. Conan considers a right to be a claim within a community of moral agents. Rights only are among beings who actually make moral claims against one another. Therefore, animals have no rights. To maximize protection of human subjects, Conan considers the wide and imaginative use of live animals should be encouraged rather than discouraged for biomedical research. So in your personal opinion, do you think we should increase or do you think we should decrease investigation and advancements and funding into research and biomedical testing on animals?
I would like to see increased research if it meant getting better models or better evidence. So if someone were to tell me that a lot of drugs are failing at this stage because we don't have a good enough model in an animal model, yes, I would like to see more research go towards animal testing and biomedical research. I would also like to see more money go maybe into, could you find better models outside of living systems?
Alternatives.
Yeah, could you do this in maybe a more in vitro fashion rather than in vivo?
Oh, okay, great.
So thinking of doing this on maybe, and I'm way out of my league here of what goes on with a lot of these animal testings, but it would be interesting to see research and funded research to say, hey, we can get the same kind of analysis out of a in vitro system and not have to use an animal or sacrifice an animal for this test, and that would be interesting. But at the same token, as I said in the earlier response, I think it's important if we're lacking somewhere, or if a drug consistently fails, or there's a group of drugs that consistently fail at a certain point because we didn't catch it earlier.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of money that gets wasted.
Yeah, definitely.
If it fails late, so it would be helpful to have models that could catch failures earlier. One situation I can think of that would be if you're trying to find an upper limit to a drug, like for example, lethal dose. So, how much of this drug can you have before it would kill the subject?
Yeah.
So you hear about things like that, milligrams per kilogram. That would be a dose, and then if you go over that, then it could be lethal. So how do you find that?
Yeah. By testing.
You've got to do the testing, right? And I don't know how they extrapolate from a mouse model to a human model, but it's one of these questions you can always ask is, if you were to find out that there was no testing done on that drug, the upper limit or the dosage you could take, just because you're worried about the morality of killing an animal, I think you're going to find a lot of people would rather know how much of this drug can you take than regular. Yeah.
Okay.
And
right.
It's a strange business because you think about drugs that actually do work and that are out there and they save lives. If they're saving the life of your daughter, wife, or mother, or something like that, you're not thinking about the mice or the primates or whatever it may have been that were used in the testing, but you think that those animals were sacrificed for a good cause. The drug industry is a needle in a haystack. For every successful drug, there's probably hundreds that have failed.